Hello everyone, this is Yasir from Fairfax QA Center. In this video, we will learn about Firefox add-on called Firebug. Firebug is the free Firefox browser extension or add-on that facilitates the live debugging, editing, and monitoring of any website CSS, HTML, etc. We will learn how we can generate the Selenium IDE script with the help of Firebug without recording. Next, we will see what is the debugging and how we can debug the script in Selenium IDE. Then, we will learn briefly what are the locators, how they work, and how to identify them. So let's start with the Firebug. Since I resized my Firefox window, you might not be able to see it, so let me maximize it. You can see this small bug icon. This is called Firebug. Click on it. On the bottom of the page, you would see a new panel is appeared. I don't want to go into the detailed description, but just want to show the important features of Firebug. We can see the complete HTML, CSS, JavaScript of the selected page and also can debug it through Firebug. We can also inspect each item on the currently selected page through Page Element Inspector. Click on Element Inspector and hover on any element in a page you want to see the description of. For example, I want to inspect the About Us link. So click on Element Inspector, then mouse hover on About Us link and click on it. You can see About Us link HTML has been highlighted by the Firebug. If we expand it, it will show us different attributes of About Us link. For example, we can see the URL of About Us link and also the title of About Us link is given here. Similarly, you can click on Element Inspector and hover on any element. For example, I hovered on this search text box and I can see the complete attributes of this search text box, that is ID, class, and what is the type of this text box. For now, we will only use this Element Inspector tool to get the element's ID, name, class, etc. that would be used to write the script in Selenium IDE. So let's start. Click on Firebug icon and go to home page. Now we won't record any script. Instead, we will direct write the commands, use the Firebug to get the target elements identifiers and manually enter the values. Click on the first line in editor. You would see command, target and value text boxes are enabled now. So let's open our invalid user login steps document and manually write the Selenium IDE commands against each step. Okay, here are the steps for the invalid user login testing test case. The first step is to open the photo application in the browser, for example Firefox. The second step, we will click on the login link from the top menu. The third step, we will enter the invalid email address and the password. And finally, we will click on the login button. And the expected result for this test case is wrong info entered, try again, error message should be displayed. So the first step is to open the photo application, and the command to open any URL in Selenium IDE is open, and in target we need to specify the URL. Let's write our first command open. You would see as soon you would start typing the command, Selenium IDE will start showing you the suggestions. That is called IntelliSense, which is very useful because we don't need to memorize the full command name. Click on the first command open. Since you can see the base URL in Selenium IDE is set as the home page of Photoweb application, so we don't need to specify the full path in the target text box, only the single slash would be enough. Let's save our test case. Go to File menu and select the menu item Save Test Case. Let's save this test case. Go to File menu, select the menu item Save Test Case. Enter a new name for this test case, for example, Invalid Thread Login. And at the end, you can append the text manual. Click on Save button. The next step is to click on the login link. Click on the next line in Selenium IDE editor. To click on a link and wait for the next page to load, we will use command click and wait. Start typing click and then select the command click and wait. Next, we need login link identifier, for example link ID, name or CSS, etc. The simple way to get the link identifier is click on a select button, read the description, select an element by clicking on it in the browser or click cancel to cancel. So now click on the login link and here we go. We got the link identifier for the login link, that is link is equal to login. So now the question may be, why this target is link is equal to login? Why it is not login ID, name or CSS, etc.? The answer is related to the locators. We will discuss locators later in a video. The next part is the value, which will have the login page URL. Now how to get this login page URL? Here the Firebug come into action. Click on Element Inspector link and then click on Login link. The href value is the actual login page URL. Copy this value and paste it in the value text box. You saw we just clicked on login link and Firebug highlighted the corresponding HTML against it. Now we can see the complete attributes of this login link. For example, the href, which is actually the URL of the login page, and its title, that is login. Now let me introduce you another interesting thing that is called execute command. If you don't want to run the entire test case, you can only execute the single command. For example, right now I am on the home page of Photoweb application. If I want to test that my second step is good and doesn't have any issue, I can test it by right-clicking and selecting the option execute this command to check that it goes to login page or not. So you saw my command is successfully executed and I am redirected to login page. Let's go to the next step. The next step is enter the email address and password. Click on the next line in Selenium IDE editor. To add any text in the text boxes, we use Selenium command type. Now we will get the email address text box identifier. Click on select button and then click on email address text box. So we got the email address text box identifier, that is ID is equal to email address. Let's go back to our test case steps. Copy the email address, paste it in value text box. Repeat these steps for the password text field. Go to test case steps and copy the password. Paste in the value text box. The next step is click on the login button. Select the next line in Selenium Ide editor. Since we are not opening any new page by clicking on this login button, so we will only use the command click. Select the click command. Next, click on select button and then click on login button. So we got the login button identifier, that is actually the CSS of this button. Next, we need to add the condition to verify the proper error message. To get the element identifier that will hold this error message, we can execute this test case. Click on Play Current Test Case button. To verify the text, we need to add the command wait for text. Click on next line in Selenium Ide editor. Start typing wait. Select the first command wait for text. Next, we need to get the element that has this error message. Either this element is div, label, span, etc. We don't care. Just click on the select button and then click on this error message. So we got the target element whose ID is equal to get code. Next, go back to our test case step and copy the error message. Paste this error message in the value text box. That's it. So we manually created our test case with the help of Firebug, select button in the target, and a little knowledge of Selenium IDE commands. You might be wondering what is the purpose of this find button. The find button verifies and highlights the element on the web page that we specified in the target text box. For example, we have selected our last step. Click on the find button and you see the error message container is highlighted. Select the previous step and click on find button. The login button is highlighted and so on. Click on Play Current Test Case button to verify our test case is created successfully without any issue. Go to Log tab and you can see the message at the end, the test case is passed successfully. We can also start the test case from any step. For example, if you want to skip the first step, you can click on second step and select the option Set Clear Start Point. Now if you will click on play current test case, it will start from the second step. Next, we can also execute this test case step by step by setting the breakpoint. For example, click on the third step and select the option toggle breakpoint. Now when we will execute this test case, it will stop at this breakpoint. Then we will click on this step button to move to the next steps. This is very helpful if you want to see anything between the steps. For example, label values, CSS, position, change, etc. This is also called debugging. The next topic that I want to briefly discuss is locators. In simple words, locators tell Selenium IDE which UI element, for example, text box, label, div, etc., it needs to operate on. Locators are identifiers of these elements. For example, look at target column. For example, we are identifying the login link with a link locator. For email address, password, and error message, we are using the ID locator. But for the login button, we are using the CSS locator. Now, why these different types of UI elements have different locators, and where are these locators in Selenium IDE? Let's go to the option menu and select the option menu item. Next, let's go to the locator builders tab. Here is the list of all locators and their order. Let's skip the UI locator for the moment just for understanding and jump to ID locator. If the UI element that we want to use on a page has ID property, then Selenium IDE will use the ID as a locator. If that element doesn't have this ID property, then Selenium IDE will look for the link property. And if it exists, then Selenium IDE will use the link as a locator. And if link doesn't exist, then Selenium IDE will go for the name property, and so on. We can also change the order of these locators depending on the front-end development architecture of our application. For example, click and drag any element. Or you can also reset it to default. Click on cancel button. So now if we look at our test case elements, Selenium IDE is following same locators selection rule that we just discussed. For example, for the login link, the UI and ID properties don't exist. That's why Selenium IDE is using the link locator. For email address, password, and error message div, we have ID properties. That's why Selenium IDE is using the ID locator. But for the login button, we don't have any UI, ID, name, link, etc. properties. So Selenium IDE is using the CSS locator. Go to File menu and save the changes we just made.